Is it too late for him to save $1 million? See why it may not even matter. Folks, most people don't retire with $1 million. In fact, saw this recently from Yahoo Finance what the average American retiree had. The end of 2023, they had 170,000, and the fact is, only about 3%, actually 3% of people make it to $1 million. This says 8 to 10%, but the most recent ones I've seen is 3.2%. Most people don't even come close to $1 million. How does it actually work out for most retirees? Let's take somebody that's 39 years old. He's only been able to save $35,000, and he's panicking that he doesn't have enough. He says he can save $300 a month, and he increased that by 3% a year. And says right now his expected expenses will be $5,000. Of course, that'll go up from age 39 to age 67. That's 28 years from now. That 28 years of inflation, that 5,000, he's going to need 11,440. But according to a Social Security statement, he's going to make about $2,300 a month in Social Security at age 67. Folks, that 2,300 is basically going to double in the next 28 years, given a 2.5% COLA Social Security inflation rate. So he's actually going to get 45.92, and if he takes it at age 67, he's going to get 100% of that. So he's going to get 45.92. So what's he going to actually need from his nest egg? Folks, he's going to need about 6,848 to have the buying power of what he needs. And folks, if you look at these numbers, this is for the last 100 years worth of data, which is what we do on this channel. We use these returns right here. We just project ahead what you might have in the future. Now look at this, folks. 100% of the time, even in the worst case scenario, the money would last over 40 years once he reaches retirement. Why do we say that? Because 28 years from now, he's going to have, let me scroll down here just a minute to show you what he's going to have. When he starts finally withdrawing, he's going to have $883,000. Folks, this is the worst case scenario in the last 40 years. And he's going to need 6,848 coming from that. So you can see the 6,848 starting to come out of that. And you're going to see that he has enough money that he's not going to run out in 40 years. Now, if he starts changing his retirement age, that's when it starts making changes here. Let's go to age 66. Here's showing the money you have left after each of these time periods. Again, folks, this one right here is the worst in the last 100 years. This is the worst 5% in the last 100 years, and worst 10%, and so on. So if we can keep these up fairly well, then you know that you're in great shape. Let's go to age 66. Still money lasting over 40 years in the worst case scenario. 65. Now in the worst case scenario, you're running out of money in 27 years. But again, folks, that's 1 out of 100 years. Still in the top 5% worst times, you're still lasting over 40 years. How about age 64? Now it starts changing. See how that changes? Why? Because you have less time for the Social Security to grow. You have less time for these funds to grow. There's $300 a month and there's 35,000. So now you're going to start having some issues if you want to retire in 25 years as opposed to right here we had 28 years. 64, you're running in a few issues. 63, it's getting into more and more problematic. For the worst 15%, again, 85% of the time you have more than that. Age 62, have 23 years till retirement, less time for these funds to compound. That's when you start having some issues where you're running out of money. Again, in the worst case scenario, you'd actually run out of money in 8 years. You can see it down here because in the next 23 years, it would have only grown to 389,000. And then you start taking this money out and you can see how you'd be running out of money. But folks, if he wants to go to age 67, he's able to save this $300 a month, he's going to be in fine shape. You don't have to have $1 million in order to retire. In fact, even at age 65, 26 years from now, he would only have 604,000. In fact, each of these time periods, you can see going through here, the range, 604,000. In the worst 5% of the time, you have 720,000. Worst 10% of the time, you have 735,000. None of these are even close to $1 million, and yet every one of them, except this one right here, your money would last over 40 years once you reach retirement, because this is kicking in at age 65 and so on. I just want to show people you don't need to have $1 million. Everybody thinks, man, it's too late for me. I'm behind. I can't make it now. I've only been able to save this. I can only save this much a month. With Social Security, that's the key right there. You need to take into account Social Security. And of course, the earlier you take it, the more it affects all these numbers. But in this case, it looks like he's going to be in just fine shape. If he really wants to retire at age 62, that's when you'd have some problems. These are worst case scenarios, the worst 15% or less 100 years, you'd run out of money in 12 years. Well, what could you do a little bit differently? Obviously, you could maybe put in a little bit more. Let's see what happens when I put $400 a month in. Now it changes. Looks like it's a little bit better. You might have to go up to $500 a month to assure that you're going to be in good shape at least 90% of the time. In this case, the worst 10% of the time, you'd run out of money in 23 years. Well, you're retiring at age 62. That gets you to age 85. But you might have to put a little bit more in to assure yourself that you're going to make it. Let's see, $600 a month? Yeah, $600 a month. And 90% of the time, your money would not run out if you took Social Security at age 62. But you see the importance of waiting until age 67. You'd only just save half of that, and your money would last 90% of the time. If you did it age 65, 300, you can see it lasting over 40 years. Again, that's Social Security. You need to take that into account. That's why so many people, yes, they don't have the near amount of funds that people think they might need, like the recommended 555,000, and yet most people are retiring just fine because Social Security is kicking in and providing this kind of funds. And 26 years from now, in this case, you'd have this kind of money and actually have this coming in because you're getting 86.7% of that. But if you take it at age 67, you'd get the full amount. Full amount. We saw 2,300 would actually double in the next 25 years, given a Social Security inflation rate of 2.5, a COLA of 2.5, which is what it was in 2025. That's what we do on this channel, folks. We love running numbers for you. Uh, Please share this channel with others. Let people know there's this unique financial channel out there. There's nothing else like it that actually sets up spreadsheets and runs numbers for you of what's actually happened for the last 100 years. And you can see even somebody that's age 39 that's maybe way behind where he thinks he needs to be, saving just $300 a month. If he retires at age 67, he's in fine shape every single time. In the worst case scenario, even you start changing the retirement age. That's when you start having a few issues in these worst case scenarios. But 90% of the time, we saw 90% of the time, you're just fine, lasting at least 25 years in retirement with these kind of numbers. But again, thanks for watching the channel. Please share with others, and please like the video. Thanks for watching.